Hello again, fellow quilters, and welcome to Patchwork Quilts with Diane. My name's Diane, and today I would like to talk about all things dragony. This is the Dragon Quilt, but I do have a disclaimer. Let me explain. Well, if you've been watching my channel, you'll know that at the start of this year, I got very excited about 2024 being the Chinese Year of the Dragon. And the reason I got excited about that was because it was meant to start on the 4th of February, which is the day this video is going out, if all things goes to plan. And that's my birthday. Cheers. It's my birthday today. Well, 4th of February is my birthday. And nothing really happens on my birthday. And so when this auspicious event was to occur, according to the Daily Express, that is, I became very excited. And so I took the dragon as my theme for this year. I've since learnt that it's not the 4th of February, it's the 10th of February. And that's because the Chinese Lunar New Year starts on the second new moon after winter, which is the 10th of February. And so I got all excited over nothing. And I've got to say, I'm not Chinese and I don't follow such things, but I do feel a little bit disappointed. Never mind. The good thing about it is that if you were born under the rat, I'm clutching at straws now, which I was born under the rat. The year of the dragon is meant to be lucky, the luckiest year for those born under the rat. Anyway, I'm not making a rat quilt, but I will share with you how I made the dragon quilt. If you're interested, please continue watching. So sometimes people ask me how I start a quilt. Do I start with a design or a theme or fabric? And in this case, I started with the theme of the dragon because I already had some oriental type, I think it was more Japanese rather than Chinese, fabric in my stash. And when I looked at it, it had those beautiful dragons on. So I'll share that lovely fabric with you now. It's this design that made me think of creating a dragon quilt. Isn't it lovely? And it's such a shame to cut this up into unrecognisable pieces. So this is why I want to use this as the centrepiece for my medallion quilt. So what I've decided to do with that beautiful fabric is to take the dragon piece and cut that in a 15.5 square, and then I'm going to work my way around in a medallion style quilt, and it's going to be hourglass half square triangles. So I'm using that fabric as the centre of my quilt. You can use any feature fabric. A framed quilt or a medallion quilt is one that has a centrepiece and then you just work around, and you can use all different ways of working around that. It's meant to use up pieces, which I have done. I've used up some of these Japanese style fabrics that I've got in my stash, but you could use all different designs. You could use just pieces of fabric. I've chose to use hourglass. But like I say, you don't have to go down the dragon route like I have. You can use any centrepiece for your quilt. So to go around the 15.5 piece of fabric, I want a dark one, so that will either be a navy blue or a black. And then around that, I'm going to put some triangles. So I'll put those in now. So I've added the first round of hourglass blocks in the blue, and so now I'm going to put another round in red. I'll do that next, and that's the red row in, and now I'm going to put another round of blue, then I'll start adding the black and white. And there we are. I've drawn a dragon face in the centre just to represent the dragon fabric, and you can see that I've taken out this inner border and put a row of that around the outside, coming onto these hourglass shapes, just to make that centre pop a little bit more. And I've also done that around the outside on the edge, and then there will be the border will be the same. And at the moment it measures approximately 55 inches square, but that's easily extendable. If you put another row of these 2x2 blocks on each side before the border, that adds another 10 inches. So you can keep doing that. And this is the fabric I've decided I want to use in this quilt. There's highlights of gold in all of the pieces, and it comes from a selection of a Japanese range. So although it's not a Chinese, it is an Oriental pattern. So those are my selections of red, and this is the selection in the blue colourway that I have. So it looks very rich, very opulent, I think. And so I decided to pair with those beautiful blues and reds a pale, so it's an off-white, it's actually tone on tone, so there's scraps of those, different designs. And then I decided to go against a solid black. I thought that might be a little bit too heavy, so I've gone with this very fine pinpoint, and I think that will give the impression of darkness without it taking away from the other designs. And if you have a look at the design, you can see that I have put a 3-inch border around that lovely dragon fabric, but now I think I might split that into 2. And the design I'm referring to in that little clip is on my community page. So if you go there, you'll see there's an image of the Dragon Quilt and all the blocks that you need and the construction process if you're interested. So I think that works much better, having a little band of the cream next to the dragon fabric and setting it aside from the black. There'll still be the half square triangles in the black coming off that, so that'll still look like a nice border. Well, I've just sewn the 1 3/4 inch strip around the dragon piece, and it does look a little bit stark at the moment, but I'm just going to add the spotty border to that, and I think when you see it within the whole scheme of the quilt, it'll balance out. It won't look quite as stark, I hope. Well, that looks much better. It's like a picture framed. So sometimes you buy the fabric, you have the design, and then you just decide that it would look better in a different way. So just go with it. Be brave. Take the leap. If you think I want to change my mind, change it. It doesn't matter. It's your quilt. You can make it your way. So the white strip was 1 3/4 inches, and then the darker strip, I cut that at just under 2 inches and then trimmed to 20.5 inches. And I have all of my squares ready, so now I'm going to start making my half square triangles. And if you look at the prepared blocks on the table, you'll see that there isn't the full colour range of the fabric that I showed you earlier. And that's really because I don't want to cut into lots of different fabric if I don't need to. I can use those in another project, and I don't think the quality or the design will be lessened by using fewer in this one. And this next part of the video is the detailed construction of how I made this quilt. And I know that there's a lot of people that are new to quilting that are following my channel, and they've left me some really lovely comments saying that they're learning from my tutorial. So I'm really happy to encourage quilters to keep going and try new things. But if you're an experienced quilter, you might want to just fast forward this part. It's up to you. So I'm going to start with row 1. And for row 1, I need my 4 3/4 inch squares. I need 5 blue and black sewn together, 6 blue and white sewn together, and 10 black and white sewn together. And I'll do that next. And so I've just sewn all of those squares together with a careful 1/4 inch, and there they are, complete. So I've snipped off the corners, and now I'm going to take these over to the ironing board and press just to relax these seams, and then I'll cut them on the diagonal. So they're all pressed,
and I'm cutting on the diagonal, and then I'll finger press them open, and I'll check to make sure they're 3 inches, and I'll trim if necessary. Well, I've just finger pressed these open, and I'm perfectly happy with these all being 3-inch half square triangles. And I think sometimes people run into problems at this stage because they press it now, and you've got to remember that all of this fabric now is on the bias, so it will stretch, especially if you use steam like I do. So I don't press until much later in the quilting project. And sometimes I do think we need to think about the bias as being our friend, because it does stretch and give a little bit if we need to have a little tug now and again to make things fit. Okay, moving on. This is block A and I'm on row 1, so I need to construct 18 of these, and I'll do that next. And another little tip, when you start to join these half square triangles together, if you start at the corner where there isn't a seam and you haven't got the bulk to start with, so you can put that underneath the foot nicely, take it down, and then when you get to this corner where there are 2 seams to match, you can nest those seams nicely and give a little tug if necessary. That helps you to achieve nice points. As long as you've got a nice consistent 1/4 inch seam there, then you'll have a nice allowance for the points to match on the other side. So that's 18 of block A for row 1 complete. Look how beautiful this fabric is. When I first saw it, it reminded me of peacock feathers, but now it's in smaller pieces. I'm thinking of dragonfly wings, and I think that's very apt for this quilt. Okay, let's have a look at block B. And this is block B, and we only have 2 of those. And when I've put those together, those will be all the pieces for row 1 sewn. So now I'm going to sew together 14 red and cream and 14 spotty and cream together and turn those into half square triangles. The second row, or the second round, is made up of 28 of C blocks. So all the half square triangles are ready and the block will look like that. So I've put a light thread on and I'll sew those now. So that's round 2 complete. Lovely colour combination, red, white and black. Okay, let's have a look at round 3 or row 3. We need to have 34, the same block as we used in A, and that's a blue, white and black combination. And then there are 2 blocks with the black on the outside. So we need 36 blocks in all. So I'm going to start by just creating the black and white half square triangles, and to get to those I need 18 black and 18 white 4 3/4 inch squares. So I'll do that next. So I've sewn together all of those 4 3/4 inch squares in black and white, and now to complete row 3 I need to sew together 10 black and 10 blue 4 3/4 inch squares and 9 blue and 9 white. That will give me black, white and blue border. However, because I had this lovely blue fabric in the red colourway and I thought they looked equally as nice, I have decided to alternate the blocks. So they're going to be the blue and the red around the outside, and we have 2 cornerstones with the red in. I did say don't be afraid to change your mind while you're in the design process. And so if you wanted to do my colour plan, the change, you'd still need to make the 18 black and 18 white 4 3/4 inch squares together, and then I have just popped over here the optional figures. So you'll need 5 in the red and black, 4 in the red and white, 5 in the blue and black and 5 in the blue and white. So on with the construction. This will come together really quickly now. So I'm joining together 4 blocks to fit on top of the feature fabric and 4 blocks to fit on the bottom, and I'm just making sure that these dark 3 half square triangles are along the bottom and on the right hand side, bottom right hand side. So they fit like that, and that will form a nice little decorative edge to the feature fabric. Well, it's not very often that I pin any of my projects, but today I have folded this fabric in half and put a crease, and then I've brought the sides into the middle and made another crease. Now what I'm going to do is just put pins on these blocks just to make sure that they're lining up nicely, because this is all on the bias and this is on the straight grain. So I just want to make sure that these are all working nicely together. Once this first row is done, I won't need to pin again because these will just all slot nicely into place. And I'm doing the same for the bottom as I did for the top, only this time we've got 2 of the black triangles on the left and on the top. So these are the left and the top. Okay, put those together. And then you can see on the right hand side we have all blocks A, but we lead with a block B. So this is the right hand side, so we lead with a block B. So we've got 2 of the white triangles on the top and the dark pointing in to the middle, and then we have 2 of the black triangles touching the inside to form these points, and then 2 along the top, and there's 5 of those block A's. So put those together. That's the right hand side complete, and the left hand side is sewn together in exactly the same way. But you've got a B block in the bottom left hand corner. So the B blocks are opposite each other, corner to corner. So we just join these together in the same way. So that's round 1 complete. I've just pinned that to the wall using straight pins so we can have a nice look at that. Well, that's something I saw Pat Sloan do when she's decorating her beautiful home with all of her fantastic quilting treasures. She often just puts them on the wall with straight pins. And so I thought, well, I want to just put this big piece up. I'll use the straight pin. So I have, perfectly fine, it held it up. And it doesn't matter if there's a few little holes on that wall. It's only me that comes in this room. And I can live with that. And I can always wallpaper over again at another time if I want to cover it up. So, if you're watching my dilemma about the design wall, so far that's another tick against it. And so now we're going to go on round 2, and every block in that is exactly the same. So that's a really easy round to do. I'll show you that. So for round 2 we have 28 of those blocks, block C, all identical. And so they fit across the top and the bottom and the sides. So I'm going to sew 6 together for the top, 6 together for the bottom, and then 8 for the right and the left. So I've put the red bar across the top and the bottom, and now I have the left and the right hand side to do. And that's the second row complete. That red is nice, isn't it? Nice and warm. So now we have 1 row left and a border. Let's have a look at that. And so I need to put this top row together. And if you look, I've just put a faint touch of pink or red in alternate squares, and those are for my red ones. So I have a D block in the top right, and I have a D block in the bottom left, but the rest alternate in the red and the blue squares. And for the top row I need 8 of these A blocks, and starting off with the red, and I have the black triangles on the left hand side and across the top, and then a blue left hand side and across the top, and so on until I've got 8 of those. And that's the top row in, and you can see those dark triangles meet together to form points. So when I put a 3-inch border on there, that will make that border really stand out. So I think that's working well. And I've also put a row of stay stitching just on the outside because there's quite a lot of weight on that now. So the side I'm going to do next is this right hand side. So I start with a D block, and then I'll need 8 alternate red and blue blocks. And this time we'll have the 2 black half square triangles on the outside. So you can see the black half square triangles are on the right, on the bottom, and the right and the bottom. And that's the right hand side on. So now I'm going to work my way across the bottom. So I start with a blue and I end with a blue, all of the A blocks, just to make sure that we have the black half square triangles together on the outside. And so we're alternating blue and red, 2 of the dark half square triangles at the bottom and on the right. So across the bottom, on the right, and we start with the blue and we end with the blue. So that is 3 sides of row 3 complete. So I've just got this left hand border now to go, and then it's time to put the straight border on. And so for this last edge, we start off on the bottom left hand corner with the D block, and then we alternate red and blue up to the top. So we've got the 2 dark half square triangles on the left and going across the top on the left and the top. And there are 10 of those. And there we are, that's the top piece. I just need to put a border on the outside and that will be the dragon quilt finished.
And so now this is when I press my quilt before I put the straight border on. I did mention earlier that I press after I've sewn around the square to relax the seams, and then I make the half square triangles and I don't press again. I don't want all the fabric to be stretched out of shape, and so I have put stay stitch in all the way around the outside of this quilt. And so what I do now is I take some fabric, put it on top of the finished top, and then I press it, try not to stretch too much, and then I can put the border on. So give it a go if you haven't tried it before. It's the way I like to do it, and I can get nice points that match, and that's what I'm more concerned with than doing things in the traditional way. Oh dear, I can hear people grabbing their computers, laptops, writing me notes. Okay, let's have a look at the finished quilt.
And this is my second quilt of the year. It's the Dragon Quilt. And I made this to celebrate 2024 as being the year of the dragon. It's 56.5 inches square, 144 centimetres. And I think it will make a nice sized topper for a double bed. And it has a really lovely pieced back, and I'll show you that. And that's the back. So it's quite a simple design, but I think you could reverse it. You could have it on the bed either way. Quite a modern touch to a room.
And so that's it. That's the quilt finished. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I thank you for watching. Oh, and happy birthday to me. Take good care of yourselves. Bye.